Welcome to the SmartKeys podcast.
It's great to be here.
Today we are tackling a topic that I think, for most business leaders, sits somewhere between root canal and tax audit on the list of things they want to deal with. We're talking about the privacy compliance framework. And stay with me here, we're looking at this through the lens of a really comprehensive guide by Felix Römer.
Right.
And his argument is, well, it's fascinating. He's essentially saying that if you stop viewing privacy as just this legal headache.
A cost center.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And start viewing it as a product feature, it transforms into a competitive advantage.
That is the core shift. And honestly, it's a necessary one because right now the sheer volume of regulation is it's just crushing companies. It's the stuff nightmares are made of for operational teams.
It really feels like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the landscape. That's not just one rule anymore. It's a web.
Oh, it's a massive tangled web. You've got GDPR in Europe, which everyone knows. Then the CCPA and CPRA in California.
Yeah.
If you're in healthcare, you're dealing with HIPAA.
PCI for credit cards.
Exactly. And the problem isn't just that these rules exist. The real problem is how most organizations try to solve them. They do it one by one.
Right. It's the whack-a-mole approach.
Precisely. A customer in California complains. Quick, spin up a project to fix California compliance? An audit in Germany? Okay, let's get a European team on it.
And you end up with 5 different teams, 5 different sets of paperwork.
And you're duplicating your security efforts 5 times over. It's inefficient, it's incredibly expensive, and frankly, it just burns people out.
And that leads us to the solution we're unpacking today. The framework. Now, framework is one of those corporate buzzwords. It gets thrown around a lot. What does it actually mean here?
So think of a framework as a unified operating system for your risk. Instead of having a GDPR strategy over here and a totally separate security strategy over there, you build one single backbone.
Okay.
It's a structured set of processes to identify, manage, and reduce risk across the entire organization. It turns those scattered, frantic reactions into a single, repeatable approach.
So instead of reinventing the wheel every time a new law passes, you adjust the engine you already built.
That is the goal. You want a system where if you fix a security gap for one regulation, it counts for all of them.
I love that concept. And our mission for this deep dive is to show you, the listener, exactly how to build that. We want to get into the weeds of how to stop duplicating work, speed up those terrifying audits, and ultimately use this to build trust.
And trust really is the currency here. It's everything.
Before we get into the how-tos, though, we have to clear up a huge misconception. The source material spends a good amount of time distinguishing between data privacy and data security. I feel like in casual conversation, I use those terms completely interchangeably.
And most people do. But if you're building a framework, you have to understand that they're cousins, not twins. They're fundamentally different disciplines.
Okay, let's break that down. What is the difference?
Let's start with privacy. Privacy is about the why and the what. It's the rule book. It governs lawful use and individual rights.
So it defines what data you can collect, why you're collecting it.
How you can share it, and how long you are legally allowed to keep it. This is where the lawyers live, GDPR, CCPA, those are privacy laws.
So privacy is all about permission.
Precisely. It's about the rights of the person who owns the data. Now, security is the how. It's the defense. It's the fence you build around the data to stop unauthorized access.
Encryption, firewalls, access controls.
Security.
Okay, I think I see where this is going. You can have one without the other.
You absolutely can, and that is where companies get sued. Imagine a house. Security is the locks on the doors, the alarm system, the bars on the windows.
Okay.
You can have the most secure house in the world, Fort Knox, but if you kidnap someone and lock them in the basement, well, you're secure, but you're breaking the law.
That is a very vivid image.
Yeah.
But it makes perfect sense. You have the defense, but you don't have the right to hold what's inside.
Exactly. You can have perfect encryption, impenetrable security, but if you collected that customer data without their consent, or if you're keeping it for 10 years when the law says you can only keep it for 2, you're violating privacy regulations.
And I assume the reverse is true. You can have great policies, but just terrible locks.
Absolutely. You can have a privacy policy that promises the world, we respect your data, we never sell it. But if your server password is 123456 and a hacker just walks in and steals everything,
your promise is worthless.
It's completely worthless because your security failed.
So the framework is the bridge.
It is the marriage of the two. Privacy sets the rules, security enforces them. You need both to prevent things from falling through the cracks. The framework makes sure that what legal is promising in the contract is actually what IT is building in the server room.
That connection is so critical because often those two departments, they just do not speak the same language.
Not at all. Legal speaks in statutes, IT speaks in code. The framework is the translator.
Let's move to the business case because I can hear a CEO listening to this and thinking, okay, this sounds responsible, but it also sounds like a cost center. It sounds like insurance.
Yeah.
But the article argues that a structured privacy program delivers real strategic value way beyond just avoiding a fine.
If you're only looking at compliance as avoiding fines, you are missing the bigger picture. There's a massive efficiency argument here. Just think about the B2B sales cycle.
Oh, the dreaded security questionnaire.
The questionnaire of doom. If you're selling software to another business, before they sign that check, they are going to audit you. They send over the spreadsheet with 300 questions about your data practices.
And if you don't have a framework,
It's just chaos. You've got your sales team panicking, emailing engineers who are trying to code features, asking, hey, do we encrypt at rest? Do we have a disaster recovery plan?
I've seen deals die in that phase. It can drag on for months.
Exactly. But transparency speeds up the deal. If you have a framework, if you can say, here's our ISO 27001 certification, or here is our mapped control matrix, you answer those questions instantly. You look professional, you look trustworthy, and you look low risk.
So it's a sales accelerant.
It is. And then there's the internal efficiency. The source talks about this concept of check once, satisfy many.
This sounds like the holy grail for anyone who hates paperwork.
Yeah.
Walk us through how this works.
Okay. Let's look at something like access control. Almost every single regulation requires you to limit who can see sensitive data. High PA for health data, PCI for credit card data, GDPR for personal data.
Right. All of them.
Without a framework, you might build a specific access system just for your health data to satisfy APA. Then you build a totally separate process for your payment data to satisfy PCI.
You're doing the work twice. You're auditing it twice. It's madness.
The check once approach says, let's pick one robust standard for access control, maybe based on the NIST framework. We implement that standard across the whole company. Now, when the CPA auditor comes, we show them that system. When the PCI auditor comes,
You show them the exact same system.
the exact same system. You fix the security gap once, and it counts towards compliance for multiple regulations.
That has to cut down on audit fatigue significantly.
It's a huge reduction. You aren't answering the same question 10 times. You answer it once, robustly, and you just map it to where it needs to go.
Okay, I'm sold on the why. Let's get into the how. Section 3 of our deep dive is about designing this beast. The guide says we have to start with a reality check.
Yeah, you cannot just copy and paste a framework from the internet. That is a recipe for failure. You have to look at your specific reality. What data do you actually hold? Where are your customers located?
Because if you don't have any customers in Europe, maybe you don't need to stress about every single line of the GDPR.
Exactly. If you're a regional U.S. bank, your reality is totally different from a global SaaS company. The source mentions using specific standards as a base, things like the NIST privacy framework or ISO 27701.
Those are the big ones.
They are. NIST is great because it's very flexible and risk-based. ISO is great if you want a certification you can actually show to clients. The key is to pick a standard that matches your maturity and your industry.
And once you have your standard, you build what the expert calls the control matrix. This seems to be the central nervous system of the whole operation.
It is. Imagine a giant spreadsheet. I know, exciting, but visualize it. In the rows, you have your technical controls, password policy, encryption, employee training.
Okay.
And in the columns, you have your legal requirements, GDPR, CCPA, RTPA.
And you just map them.
You map them. You put a check mark in the box. Our password policy satisfies Article 32 of GDPR and Section 5 of CCPA. This matrix lets you see the overlaps we talked about. But maybe even more importantly, it shows you the gaps.
The empty boxes.
Right. You might look at the matrix and realize, wait, we have great security logs, but we have absolutely nothing in the column for data deletion under CCPA. The matrix makes that gap visible so you can fix it before an auditor finds it.
Now, who is building this? Because this sounds like way too much work for one person.
Oh, if you dump this on one IT manager, they will quit. And they should. This is a cross-functional sport. The guide is very, very adamant about this. It is not just an IT job.
So who needs to be in the room?
You need a team. You need legal, to interpret the rules, because IT doesn't know what legitimate interest means in a court of law.
Hmm.
You need IT and security to actually buy and configure the tools. But the missing piece in most companies is the business owners.
You mean like HR, marketing, sales?
Exactly. The people who are actually using the data. You need the head of marketing in the room to explain why they're collecting email addresses so legal can tell them if it's allowed. If IT just locks everything down without talking to the business grinds to a halt.
And you need one person to make the final call.
The accountable leader, usually a chief privacy officer or a CPO or a senior risk leader, someone who can look at legal saying no and marketing saying yes and make a risk-based decision to move forward. Otherwise, you just get analysis paralysis.
Let's talk tactics. We have the team, we have the matrix. Now, operationalizing it. Section 4 touches on one of the scariest parts of all this. User rights.
This is where the rubber meets the road. It's easy to write a policy. It is incredibly hard to delete data. Under laws like GDPR and CCPA, a user can submit a DIR, a data subject access request.
And they can say, show me everything you know about me.
Or delete everything you know about me, and you have to do it. And usually within a very strict window, like 30 days.
And 30 days sounds like a long time until you actually try to find data scattered across a corporate network.
It vanishes instantly. If your data is spread across 50 different systems, Salesforce, HubSpot, Slack, random Excel sheets gathering that info manually is a total nightmare, you will miss the deadline.
So the guide emphasizes repeatable workflows.
Ideally, automation. You want a pipeline where you can push a button and the system queries all those databases, pulls the data, redacts information about other people, and packages it up for you.
And deletion is even trickier, right? Because you can't just delete all.
No. If I ask you to delete my data, you have to delete me from your marketing list. But you might legally need to keep my transaction record for 7 years for tax purposes.
So if you delete that, you're now breaking a different law.
You're breaking tax law, so you need that granular control. And you need to make sure I don't just pop back up.
Right.
That is the classic failure. You delete a customer, and then 3 days later, marketing uploads an old list from a backup, and that customer gets a promo email.
And then they feel like you're totally incompetent or just lying to them.
Both. And that's how you get complaints filed with regulators.
So for the listeners who are thinking we are nowhere near that level of automation, what are the must-haves? If you're starting today, what is this compact control set the expert recommends?
Okay, there are 5 essentials. If you do these 5 things, you are covering probably 80% of your risk. First is access control. This is the principle of least privilege.
Which means?
It means nobody gets access to data unless they absolutely need it to do their specific job. No more giving admin rights to the intern just because it's easier.
Second.
Encryption. You need to scramble the data both at rest, so when it's sitting on the server, and in transit, when it's moving over the internet. If a hacker steals an encrypted file, it's useless to them.
Third.
Logging. This is your surveillance camera. You need centralized monitoring to spot anomalies. You need to know if someone downloads the entire customer database at 3 a.m. on a Sunday.
That is definitely a red flag.
Huge. Fourth is incident response. And this means a rehearsed playbook, not just a document sitting on a dusty shelf. You need to know, if ransomware hits us right now, who do we call? Do we unplug the server? Do we call legal?
You don't want to be debating that while the building is burning?
Never. And the fifth is vendor risk. You are responsible for the companies you hire. If you share data with a payroll processor and they get hacked, it's your problem. You have to check their security too.
That's a tough reality, but it's the world we live in. Now, we've built the controls. How do we know if any of this is working? Section 5 is about measuring success. The guide talks about moving from counting policies to measuring outcomes.
Right. A lot of companies measure success by saying, we have 15 policies written. That's an output. It doesn't tell you if you're safe. It just tells you that you know how to write.
So what should we be measuring instead?
We need specific KPIs. For example, DSR intake to closure time. How long does that actually take you to fulfill a user's request? If the law says 30 days and you're averaging 29, you are in the danger zone.
That is a really concrete, measurable thing.
Another one is incident detection speed. How fast you spot a potential breach. Is it minutes or is it months? And audit finding remediation. When an auditor finds a problem, how fast do you fix it? These metrics show the actual health of your program.
And I have to bring up the boring word, documentation. The guide argues that good documentation is actually a weapon.
It sounds boring until the auditor walks in the door. Good documentation turns an audit from a nasty surprise into a routine check. If you have your records, your maps, your logs all organized, You're just handing over evidence. You aren't scrambling.
A boring audit is a successful audit.
Exactly. If you don't have documentation, the auditor starts digging. They interview your staff, they look for holes. Documentation proves your compliance isn't just luck, it's a system.
And this isn't a set it and forget it kind of thing, is it?
Never. The landscape changes constantly. New laws pass, new threats emerge, your business launches new products. You need continuous monitoring. You should be reviewing your framework annually or whenever a major change happens.
So bringing this all together, what's the big takeaway for the leader listening to this?
The takeaway is a shift in mindset. A privacy framework is not red tape. It is a business advantage. It streamlines your operations, it cuts costs by removing duplicated effort, and most importantly, it safeguards customer trust.
It goes back to that idea that the future of work relies on data. The companies that succeed won't just be the ones with the most data.
They'll be the ones whose customers actually trust them with that data. I completely agree. Trust is the differentiator. In a digital economy, trust is the currency.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with some practical first steps. The expert in the source suggests a 90-day quick win plan. What does that look like?
Okay, if you want to make a real impact in the next quarter, prioritize 3 things. 1, create a data inventory. You cannot protect what you don't know you have. Map out where your data lives.
Simple but essential.
2, implement multi-factor authentication, MFA, everywhere. It is the single most effective security control. It stops something like 99% of automated attacks. If you do nothing else, do that.
And number 3?
Run a gap assessment. Pick one standard, maybe NIST or ISO, and just ask, how far are we from this? Don't try to fix it all yet. Just find the holes. That gives you your roadmap for what to fix next.
Identify the inventory, lock the doors with MFA, and find the gaps. Simple, actionable, and very high impact.
It's the best way to start.
That brings us to the end of this deep dive. I want to say a huge thank you to you for tuning in to the SmartKeys podcast. We know compliance isn't usually the most thrilling topic, but we hope we've shown you how it can be the foundation for a stronger, faster business.
It was a pleasure discussing this.
If you want to dig deeper into business efficiency and future-proofing your organization, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And for the full details on everything we discussed today, including those specific control maps and frameworks, click the link in the show notes to read the full article, Privacy Compliance Framework, Safeguarding Customer Trust by Felix Römer. It's a fantastic resource that really visualizes a lot of what we talked about.
It really is.
Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.